Yeah, happy to, Ken. Thank you. So name's Jonathan. Work for AlphaGrowth doing business development. I've been your depressed bankrupt director for the last 4 months, helping bring adoption to Rocket for ETH and getting that awareness. And essentially wanted to set up this call to uh, kind of paint a picture on the bridge campaign we're running. And that way everybody has a good understanding. I always see that communication through voice and getting on calls tends to be the most effective way. So that's who I am, and also have Brian, our founder, here.
Excellent. Brian, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Brian Culligan, founder of AlphaGrowth. We doing lots of DeFi ops. Jonathan is awesome. You guys get the pleasure of working with him on a bunch of things. We have some ideas, short term, medium term, long term for RPO and Rocket Pool. The first one is around the bridging fees and the bridging token, and there's a lot that we can double click into there, but there's probably like 6 or 7 other campaigns that we have ideas for. This one's the lowest hanging fruit, so I think it's like a great one to kind of start to.
Yeah, perfect. And maybe to be good, I don't know which one of you'd like to lead off, but you want to kind of do a little, explain it to me like I'm 5. There's a post that we'll try to put in the chat here that people could follow along. But maybe explain to me what this proposal is and kind of how it works and what are some of the topics. But maybe just provide a 5-minute introduction about what the topic is and some of the questions that we want input from the community on.
Yeah, definitely happy to kind of run through that process. So just a little backstory. AlphaGrowth came in through the GMC and had a trial run to run business development services for the DAO and help bring, excuse me, our ETH demand. And within that 3 months, it was a trial and error with a lot of things. And what we did realize is selling to chains was very successful. People do want the liquid staking token of our ETH. They love the brand. They love the immutability and the security that comes along with it. And within that process, within the trial period, we also did notice that the DAO was having issues with funding and having only RPL inflation. In a solution that was thought of with our team was, what if there was a fee that could be charged on bridging? In that way, the DAO can diversify its treasury with other assets other than RPL, and as well as be able to pay for operational costs that it needs to do. And that's obviously onus on the DAO and voting how they would like to allocate those funds. But our mindset was how to get the DAO to have more funds in the treasury. And as we were starting to change, Ronin is one of the main ones that we're working with here, where they're going to mint $3 million worth of our ETH, bring it to the chain, and start working DeFi ops there. And as bridging goes to and from the chains, there would be a small transaction fee charged in a BIPS model. Unfortunately, Chainlink couldn't build this out immediately, so they recommended a flat fee. And this is where we're having discussions in the forum. What's the best model for that? And obviously, we can be creative here. There are individuals and members of DAO that are against the fee and completely understand why and the reasoning. And there are some that would like to experiment on these fees, especially with something like Ronin, and just to kind of get an idea of what it would look like if we do this on Ronin. What would it look like if we did it on other chains and bigger chains? That's
They have $10 million of incentives that they're looking to deploy. They're primarily looking to deploy to get things enough liquidity to get listed on a couple of money markets and a couple structured products around that. So, I think one of the key things here is that at the end of the day, the chains want they want our ETH, but they don't want to just hold our ETH. They want to get our ETH into structured products, right? So that they can either make products for their community or make products for their treasury. And so using this as a case study on, we have an agreement with Ronin as well. So that was also helpful. We're going to help design some of these structured products around our ETH on Ronin. And we believe that, there should be more demand because we're looking at like if we get the looping strategy and ETH on ETH would be like 10 to 12% organically, right? We don't know what the capacity would be there, but something like might be like 10 to 20 million of rETH on Ronin within the next 6 to 12 months. It's kind of what we're looking at if we do this correctly. So it's a small purchase now, but the expectation is that 10 to 20 million of rETH will come to Ronin in the next 6 to 12 months.
Okay, let me just see if I'm following here, right? So Ronin, it's another EVM compatible layer one. I think it was initially identified for gaming, but now they're expecting it to be kind of multi-purpose, a high efficiency chain. And I guess to create the bridge, right? I guess we would work with a bridge partner. And what would Rocket Pull, or what would so it seems like, the ultimate question is, should we charge a commission and as a revenue generating part for the bridge fee? But I guess what would be the work needed? We would actually have to create a contract address on Ronin. We would have to work with a bridging provider or the canonical bridge and kind of identify that, okay, this is the rETH product, and if you deposit rETH on mainnet, it will bridge to this contract address on Ronin. Like, what are kind of the steps, and what are the questions that we have for the community?
So we have it all set up, right? The canonical bridge for Ronin is Chainlink, TCP, and what they basically said was they find a multi-sig. The multi-sig would own the contract on each side. In case of a CCIP unwind, or in case of a token upgrade, an rETH token upgrade, it's good to have access to the multi-sig, because we talked about it, like, what if we just do it and burn? And like, it's just in case you want a multi-sig on there for upgradable, right? The key here is that multi-sig becomes an OPSEC attack vector. Because effectively what you could do, whatever is locked on the Ethereum mainnet side of CCIP, you could drain effectively all of the rETH from Ronin. So whatever the amount that was locked in the bridging contract, the OPSEC in the community, that's probably the biggest risk. But other than that, we have everything set up. So we have the structure, we have the fees, we have the flows. Chainlink is basically has everything set up and ready. We need an agreement or a yes from the community to move forward, and then to figure out what the OPSEC is and who's going to be on the multi-sig. That's it.
Okay. And then just a few last questions on my end, and then I'd like to open it up for everyone in the community to kind of expand on this. And so we don't already have rETH on Ronin, right? So it's not like we'll be competing with another rETH version on that same chain, right? This would be the first introduction of our LST on Ronin for rETH, correct? And then the fee structure, that's charged there. I guess I'm thinking about the question here is maybe for the community is, one, should we charge a fee? And I guess I'd like to hear from the community some of the pros and cons about why we should charge a fee or why we shouldn't charge a fee. And then I guess if we do charge a fee, what should that fee be and to whom should that fee go to? And this is where I think some of my knowledge, like, I don't know, does Chainlink charge a fee? Does Ronin charge a fee? Do we do it in kind of a commissioning structure with AlphaGrowth? Does, obviously the DAO would probably be the Rocket Pull recipient of its share of the fee. But are those kind of the questions that you want from the community, or what are the questions, or what is the input that you would like to see from the community members?
So there are fees that Chainlink charges. It's very, very small. It's a little bit of extra gas. So there is a gas fee already there. And, Chainlink's CCIP charges a little bit of extra gas. That's their fee. We went back and forth with Chainlink on what they recommended. $5 going in, $1 coming out. Wait, do I have that reversed? Yes, I have that reversed. $1 going into Ronin, $5 coming out. The CCIP Chainlink bridge is the canonical bridge. There are no other bridges to Ronin from ETH mainnet. The Ronin chain is part of the AG layer, so there will be connectivity that goes to Polygon and some of Polygon's new chains.
Right.
So there's that kind of going on. The variables here are charge a fee or don't charge a fee. And then, the way that the deal is currently structured, Ronin doesn't get any of the fee, AlphaGrowth doesn't get any of the fee. The DAO would receive all of the fee. And we would be looking to add more streams of revenue to the DAO. And this is the first of many.
Yeah, got it. Okay, well, this is probably a very good overview. And let me just invite anyone to kind of unmute and ask questions that you might have about this.
I can't tell the future. So what the actual capital in runs are going to be, I'm not sure. However, this is a business model that you can do again and again, right? So we're kind of creating a business model here around bridging and bridging fees. And then we've talked to Wormhole, we've talked to Across, we've talked, Chainlink, we've talked to like all of the main bridging partners, and they have different mechanism designs. So what we're basically kind of providing here is a mechanism design that can earn across all of the bridges, right? So if you don't want to wait the 7-day time premium coming from Arbitrum to ETH mainnet, then you would pay a fee. What that fee is, either static or BIPs commission based. Happy to negotiate that out, but this is something that we can negotiate through all bridges. So if you have Rocket Pool ETH on 7 or 8 chains, and you say, okay, 4 times 8, and that's 32 ETH. Okay, it's nothing to sneeze about. It's nothing crazy, but it's also nothing to sneeze about, and it's starting to drive reoccurring revenue every year.
Correct. Excuse me. It's definitely about the volumes is where we're looking into. So it might be a small amount where you say like 4 ETH on Ronin, but once you start implementing this strategy where you create enough demand on multiple chains, now you have multiple bridges giving you 4 ETH, and then at that point it could be a substantial amount. But like Brian says, we cannot see the future, and this is something that we are willing to try and create this business model to help the DAO fund itself.
There is a canonical bridge for a token. I don't want to release the name. Colleague of ours who comes up with a strategy to incentivize something on base and then something on optimism. And because of the bridge fee bridging structure, he basically and they have a sale penalty and a bridging tax. Basically, week by week they go through and they incentivize something on base and then they incentivize something on optimism. They go back and forth, and because of that incentivization, it creates that flow and volume of demand going from chain to chain. And he does that in a contrived way to generate more revenue. I'm not saying that we should do that. I am saying that is a strategy.
I guess a couple that I have, and I certainly don't want to be the only voice here, so definitely unmute and just interrupt, please, if you do have questions. I guess, usually in kind of decision like this where, I'm learning a lot on, and, I like to do kind of a pros and cons, and I wonder if maybe Brian and Jonathan, if I could ask you to just put the con hat on and kind of be contrarian for a moment. What are some of the reasons why we would not want to do this?
A great question. I think that if that the fee structure, albeit small, is going to hinder the $100 holder, and I don't perceive that we have $100 holders going back and forth from ETH mainnet to Ronin, but that tax, albeit small, will likely hinder the smaller user.
Okay, yeah, so it creates a kind of an inefficiency in the market. Not only would you have your bridging fees charged by Chainlink, as you said, the additional gas fees to use their cross-chain bridge, there'd be an additional assessment or a tax that's paid, a toll on the bridge, if you will. And so, yeah, that could focus on that. And then, I guess on the pro side, right? I mean, if I'm understanding the proposal here, there's a a commitment. You phrased it as small. 3 million in my in my book is still large. That they would actually mint rETH on mainnet, and they would bridge it across to provide kind of the liquidity. There's really no cost to us. It would provide demand for rETH. That's what we need. We need more rETH minting for the protocol to grow. And then I guess in your proposal, we would establish the bridge with a fee. We're kind of testing the waters, right, to see does charging a commission, a toll on that bridge, does it generate revenue? Is that revenue beneficial, meaning we actually earn more than, let's say, lost transactions due to it affecting smaller denomination transfers? But if we establish that fee, can we unestablish it? Is it something like, as we're testing, doing A/B testing here, bridges without fees and bridges with fees from other chains? Can we reverse that if we find out that the fee was detrimental to our protocol?
Yeah, I don't see an issue with that. I don't see an issue unwinding the fees. Yeah, I think they're pretty small. I think commission basis. Most of the historically, what I've seen when we kind of set up these different campaigns, you're talking about like people are moving chunks in like the 10K to 100K at a time, because like the market. Yes, there's three. Okay, so let me take a step back. There's three categories of users that we communicate: minnows, sharks, and whales. Minnows being like 10K and under, sharks being 10K to 100K, 100K and above, whales. These strategies that we're going to be posting on Ronin and distributing the rETH strategies and communicating about them will be through particular KOLs that communicate to sharks. So we think that it's going to be 10,000 to 100K type of users that have this amount of rETH that are coming to look for these incentives. Ronin wants to, we have to do some experiments. Ronin wants to incentivize up to 20 million of rETH, right? So we don't know exactly how much incentives, or they'll have enough incentives to get to 20 million of rETH on Ronin, but that is their goal and their intention. And they're bootstrapping it with a $3 million purchase. So then our job is to, putting the Ronin hat on, is to market those incentives. Those incentives will be Rocket Pool, a couple other yield-bearing tokens, nothing competitive with Rocket Pool, but there are some other yield-bearing tokens that we will be bringing over, adding incentives on top of, and then advertising to the mid-market. In the future, hopefully that answers your question. But yes, we can turn off the fees.
Yeah, and I guess it also kind of leads to maybe another question. Is okay, so obviously in the whole kind of L2, I recognize these are L1s, but in the whole kind of like multi-chain Ethereum universe, I guess they're all, that there is this money that's being offered incentives. I think every L2 or every alt L1 that's in the ecosystem is trying to get a user base, right? And to do that, many of these protocols are, as you said, providing incentives. So there's some players that are out there that are, for lack of a better word, liquidity farming these incentives, right? If I hold rETH, and let's say right now it's on Arbitrum, I don't know if there's any incentives in those pools, right? But if I'm savvy, I could be looking at these other chains, and let's say we do something like this, and there's an incentive yield. I could transition my rETH from Arbitrum and move over to Ronin. And I guess these other chains are betting that with these incentives, there'll be some stickiness. That maybe I'll keep my rETH there on Ronin and show user and transaction, and that will add value to their network, right? And I guess the proposal for Rocket Pool is, certainly I think we definitely want the rETH to be on as many chains as possible, right? If we're going to offer a liquid staking token, people want to use it as an ETH derivative, or a yield earning ETH version, right? Then you want it to be as useful in as many areas as possible. You kind of want it to be a dominant currency, kind of like Visa. It's accepted everywhere. Or the US dollar, it's accepted everywhere, right? And I guess the question here is, does Rocket Pool and does the DAO, if we establish a bridge toll, we have to do some work to own the contract address. And I think I understand in the post from Langers that the work is doable and not all that difficult for the team to create the contract address. And establish as you said, a multi-sig or something that would allow us to set a fee structure or a toll structure. And I guess the question is, does Rocket Pool kind of insert ourselves in there as a DAO and create a slice of the pie or a toll to generate some revenue? Is that kind of a fair summary or assumption here?
Yeah, that is exactly fair. One, I mean, this is kind of like off the topic, but still in the same vein. Ronin has 700,000 daily active users, mostly doing DeFi games. I mean, sorry, gaming games.
Yeah.
And little DeFi. So it's a massive exposure. I bringing the liquidity over. I don't think it's going to come back, which kind of buries it. So getting back to the charging of the fee, yes, we can set it up for you, Lankers, and you guys can set up the multi-sig and the contract address. Where we're stuck at this moment, we would have already done this already, but Chainlink needs clarification on what the DAO wants to do and how the Rocket Pool DAO wants to own the contract. If it's like, hey, you guys just go ahead and do it, then we'll do it. If it's like, no, we want to own it, cool. Then you guys own it and have all the OPSEC and control and probably we'll never need to do anything more, right? But if there's a contract update or something occurs, or you want to turn up the fees or down the fees or switch it to a BIPS basis, that's a discussion, and Chainlink is looking to build the tools so that the multi-sig could do that on their own.
Okay. And then maybe we can take both of those down. I guess on the first one is, okay, we need a decision, right? Do we do this and do we charge a fee, right? And maybe what should that fee be? And so this call exactly is one of the steps in that governance process, right? You posted a post on the forum. I saw it had good engagement. There's this community call to allow folks to ask questions or listen to this on a podcast replay. And I still encourage people, please, to come forward if you have questions. And then I guess ultimately what we need a vote. Maybe just foreshadow for a little bit if there's some consensus or at least enough discussion to call for a vote. Tell me what would that vote look like in your mind? Would it be, do we create a bridge? I mean, that one seems maybe less controversial. And then the second one is, do we create a toll or a fee? And then third one would be, what should that toll be? Or maybe project for me a little bit here what you think that vote should be. Like, what is the answer? What is the vote that you need an answer to?
So I think if we're all on page on the first part, then the first part is very simple. Who owns the contract, right? That's very simple. Yes, we want to bridge with CCIP, and here's the multi-sig that's going to own the contract. And we put that in the forum. Everybody, thumbs ups it or snapshot or downvote or whatever, and then we can get the $3 million on the Ronin.
Sure. And who recognize, AlphaGrowth has been kind of one of our partners for 4 months now. But like, do you have a recommendation? Like whom in Rocket Pool should own that multi-sig or be parties to that multi-sig?
I'm not as technically knowledgeable around how you guys manage your other like contract creations, and I would just model it the same way that you've done in the past of like the contract creation coming over like the Arbitrum bridge and things like that. That would be my best recommendation. So whoever owns access to that.
Well, maybe I could throw this out to the community members here. And sorry, I think I've got trading up as well too. But does anyone know? I mean, I know that back in the early days when Arbitrum and OP were going, I think it was just Kane that figured out how to create the contract. But I don't know if those are just one-time contracts and like there is no multi-sig. Like, does anyone in the call here know how we've done this before? Have we ever done something like this?
Yeah, Ken, for one thing, I can say, like, I've spoken up on this issue before. I think it's up, the one person who isn't usually on these multi-sigs is the DAO. And, even though I'm for the bridge, I've come around to being for the fees. at least as an experiment on Ronin. I think it's problematic having the DAO. I certainly wouldn't want any committees to be on the multi-sig. And I think it's going to be hard to find individuals, I could be wrong, but individuals in the DAO who want to be on that multi-sig. So I think, in my opinion, it's got to be, the team who controls it. That's my opinion.
Okay. Just pausing just for a slight second here. This is a very good topic, and Dr.
I
Good
can
certainly want to. Let me just one quick thing here, just because there is a POAP and the window just opened. I know how the community loves their POAP here. It opened up here at 11 o'clock. So let me just give you the POAP mint code here. The POAP mint code for today's call, if I could, is alpha-rETH, lowercase alpha-rETH. You can mint that using the POAP home app, and just use it as, I think it's a keyword or secret word, alpha-rETH. But yeah, let's go back to the topic. It sounded like somebody was going to respond to Dr. D's point about the team being perhaps the identified party that should be the multi-sig participants.
Yeah, so I think this conversation has been brought up where, from my understanding, from all the other chains, Rockabool deals with the ethos of immutability, and once the rETH contract is created on the destination address, the mint and burn function is burned away. And this is something that we have talked to Chainlink CCIP if it's possible. They have said yes, but you want to leave the token pool part to be changeable, so you can do rate limits and change the fee structure. What was proposed last month was creating some type of like bridge security council between the labs and the DAO and AlphaGrowth, if that is something of interest, but it could be easily just the DAO and the labs. And that way, you have a little bit more flexibility to expand the contract with the markets.
So I think then I would clarify, like right now, the DAO on purpose is not, we don't treat it like a business. And, so when you talk about the DAO being on some multi-sig, you're really just talking about individual people, who might be on the DAO, but we're not saying they formally, are part of some structure of the DAO. So, I mean, you're really you would have to find individuals who the community would be okay with being on this multi-sig and who are willing to do it, knowing that, unless they have some legal structure for themselves, they are then taking personal responsibility over these, for being on such a huge multi-sig, that if something happens and it gets rugged, that they're going to be personally responsible for that, which is why usually we let the team do it, because they already have a company. So, they're already a formed legal entity, so they're already protected in that way. You might find people who are willing to do it. I mean, I guess we could see, but I think that's going to be a hard thing to manage.
That's fine. This isn't really like this is a must in order to move forward. It's one of those that this is a one option that's available, and what we're trying to explore here exactly is what is it needed. One is rETH to be going to Ronin and brings that rETH demand. That's one of the most important parts, right? Second priority is to be able to bring some type of business model with fees on the bridging that can be going back to the DAO, so the DAO can be self-sustainable and diversify its treasury other than RPL. Those are the main priorities that we have. Everything else, we can definitely work alongside that. So if the DAO chooses not to have a bridge security council and wants to burn that functionality, there's trade-offs to that. The same way there's trade-offs to actually owning it. And understanding that trade-off in order to make that decision is where we're here for, and when we present these opportunities. So if it went the route of having the contract address, it would work little bit better to be able to work with multiple bridges. If you don't, then you are only using Chainlink as the canonical rETH, and any other bridge that comes along would have some other type of version similar to how Hop is on Arbitrum, where they have the HRETH, and then you have to create pools. So
right.
it gets all trade-offs. That's all it is. And but the fee structure won't necessarily change.
Okay, and it's a question in chit-chat too, and I had the same question. Once I believe you brought up, even if it was earned, so we couldn't control the fee structure that Chainlink still could. It's just that we would be depending on them to, reimburse us the fee, but that they could still change it and collect it. Is that true?
Yeah, so they wanted to give a warning. Yes, the contract can burn. The issue is if there's any future contract upgrades for rETH, there would be some major liquidity issues on the Ronin side, right? So it would have to go through the process again. You'd have to figure out how to claim and readjust past contract, and might have to make a mechanism that comes back across the bridge, does some token upgrade, and comes back. And you'd have to rebuild the liquidity in the liquidity pools. So, which they're recommending against, but it's doable.
And the concern I raised for the DAO was that we're here looking at the behalf of the DAO and what's best for the DAO. And if Chainlink, obviously the most likely would never do this. I don't believe they would do this, but if Chainlink ever decided to not pass on those fees to Rocket Pool, Rocket Pool has no way of turning off the CCIP bridge and bringing another bridge in. And we're just at the whims of Chainlink at that point.
And then the suggestion of, having the team. Do we know? And I apologize if this was brought up in the forum and I missed this, but are the team members willing to be the multi-sig signatories, at least for the interim? I like the idea of flexibility, like we don't know where this is going, or just the whole ecosystem of evolvement of, cross-chain portability between layer 2s and alt layer 1s and so forth. To me, having the most flexibility in an early stage is good because it keeps all doors open. But, and I recognize what Dr. Doofus is saying about, we don't really have, a security council in the DAO. We don't, it would be difficult for individual members of the DAO to hold that responsibility. We don't want to assign it to the existing management committees. But do we know, is the team willing to do this? It's almost like, I know we're moving, the overall ethos of Rocket Pool is to be a DAO-led organization, but it does seem like, at least in the early stage, the ideal of having the guardian or some guardians, multi-sig guardians from the team, be the owner of the multi-sig, at least till we know where we're going. Do we know if that's a possibility?
I brought this up to the labs, and Mav, please feel free to speak up if I'm wrong. But from my understanding, labs does not want to participate in a bridge security council. And as Dr. Doofus has stated, there's also concerns from individuals participating in this.
Let me just see. I think you said does not want to participate in the multi-sig. Did I hear you correct that they were not interested? Yes. or no? Okay.
That is correct. Labs does not want to participate in creating a multi-sig.
Yeah, and Mav, I know it's early where you are or whatever, but I don't know, is that still kind of your perception, or do you think there's some room for negotiation on that?
Yeah, I believe that is correct. The latest I heard.
Okay. So I guess maybe that's the challenging part for the community here is, do we try to create some mechanism to have it owned in a multi-sig so we have flexibility of future what ifs, right? Or do we somewhat kind of set it in stone, but that will limit us long term if things change? Is that kind of the question?
Correct. So if we run the rETH contract address mint like capabilities where only CCIPs has that capabilities, then the only bridge is going to be CCIP, and any other bridge that comes along will not be able to natively mint rETH. They will have to have their own version, and then you have to create pools, just kind of like what's going on with Arbitrum and Hop protocol. And then it just goes back to where the only concern I have, or the main concern I have with this, is if Chainlink CCIP is charging its fees and is giving it to the DAO at a quarterly basis. Technically, there's nothing that the DAO can do if Chainlink decides to shut off those extra fees for any reason. This is not like the DAO can be like, okay, fine, you're going to take our fees away. We'll shut down the capability of you minting our ETH, and we'll go to another bridge provider that is able to facilitate the services that the DAO needs.
So I put,
yeah, go ahead, please.
I put a link to the forum in the chit chat comments. People should go there and put what they think. That may be the place to ask. So someone asked too about, committees being on the multi-sig. There is no way that I would recommend that at all. I think that, because the committees aren't legal entities either, and I think you're just begging for problems. Going to be a security council that will be made up of individuals. I think it's perfectly fine to, solicit on the forum or something, ask, hey, are there individuals out there, the same type of people who might be willing to be on the security council to, be on this multi-sig? And, probably if there's high profile community members that people trust who would be willing to do it, that's perfectly fine. That's up to them. And, if we find them, fine. If we can't, then I think there's not any choice. If the team is not, willing to do it, and there's no individuals willing to do it, then that kind of answers the question. It would have to be burned and take our chances. I guess that would be my advice. But people should go to the forum for sure, because, at least I feel like the momentum, especially with the treasury where it is, the momentum is moving towards doing this, probably burning the contract, but having the bridge, putting in the fees, at least on Ronin as an experiment. So if people, especially those people who might be against that, I would suggest getting on the forum and giving your opinion. But really, everyone should do that.
So, Link recommended we spin up a business unit, like an offshore nonprofit. We already have one of them that gets some people to make this as a business line item, because they have other tokens that have the same issue. And basically was like, hey, we can build you in and charge you for it. So if somebody's interested in this and wants to have a chat, there is probably like a small maintenance contract opportunity to be on that multi-sig, and we could potentially spin up a nonprofit entity just to do this for OPSEC.
Yeah, it almost it's interesting you mentioned that, because it almost seems like this could be like an outsourced. How people bring in auditing firms to manage stuff. You could have an outsourced security council that the protocol could just hire, and they could administer this on the client's behalf, our behalf, or something else.
Chainlink is actively looking for a vendor to do this for them.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Help me understand just a little bit about timelines. Obviously this is a tough decision on I think Dr. Doofus probably did it. I think most, and I certainly encourage still contrarian opinions, most think this is an excellent opportunity. While 3 million of rETH, perhaps incentive for our rETH holders that might add more minting, an ability to experiment on tolls or fees for the canonical bridges, and seeing if that provides diversity in our income revenues for our DAOs. I think I'm supportive overall, but I guess the technical question is do we balance the flexibility of future contract upgrades or redesign? if anything, if I've learned anything, it's that Ethereum is an actively growing area, and think twice about solidifying anything and ossifying something in just its early stages. We don't have foresight and knowledge. Wait till things mature before you ossify them. So I like the idea of flexibility, but of course, then we have the problem of to whom will be the Security Council to own that multi-sig. And I wonder, Mav, if we could really try to push back on the team a little bit here and say, hey, look, it already has a lot of liability with our contract upgrades. I mean, how much, it already forms a guardian role. If we need a guardian in this thing, why can't the labs do this? I think maybe the DAO should also push back on them. But I like the idea of looking at all options. But help me on the timeline here. I know that everything moves fast in crypto. There's this opportunity. We don't want to miss this up. We don't want to see Ronan mint $3 million of a competitive LST. But how much time do we have to solve this? Like, is it quick, and how quick is it? Like, what we should set some deadlines at trying to reach some path forward here.
Yeah, I think Ronan's ready to go. Chainlink's ready to go. We just need to tell them what to do. So they basically said 3 days to a week from when a decision is made to implement and get started.
And when do they need our decision by?
As soon as possible, I guess.
Technically, we don't have that timeline, but it's like, yeah. Please, let's figure something out.
The thing is, Chainlink can build this out within, I think, at fastest a week. But the more time that is being delayed, and if somebody else tries to come in and tell Ronan, hey, we have this today, we can try to make the case that to stick with rETH, but we can't force them to continue with rETH.
Yeah, hopefully none of our competitors are listening to this call and front run us here. I feel like we just put this out in the public mempool, but yeah.
I mean, just to be full disclosure, we are helping drive the DeFi ecosystem for Ronin, and if we get a lot of pressure to hey, get us a staking ETH, what's the timeline for taking so long? We may have to go another direction. We don't want to go to another direction, but our client, we're trying to serve both parties here in a win-win.
Yeah, in a mutual win-win. Yeah. Okay. Are there any other topics or any questions for the group here? Anyone on the call have additional questions or points, or anything from AlphaGrowth that we haven't covered that you feel is important for us to introduce into the conversation?
You're right.
Can I just then, push on that last point that if we're in a hurry here, I think that especially, the big holdup is the contract. I think that Ken's right. We should push on the team a little bit. This should be kind of in their sphere, and they should be able to give us a yes or no quick. Otherwise, I think, Spartan, for you, the asking on the forum, is there anyone willing to do this, is probably not going to get many comments. You might want to personally target a few high-profile community members and ask them, hey, would you be willing to be on this multi-sig? Because we're not going to have some rando who we don't know on it, and that may give you a just get yes or no from, rocket scientists, a few of those kind of people. That's my suggestion.
Awesome. Thank you for that feedback. We'll get that going today. If there's any additional questions from the community, I would like to kind of bring up that the concern of legality within DAO, I think, is something that we should take caution with. But I also think that it shouldn't be something that the DAO stagnates from or is inactive due to legality risks. The DAO is small enough that it's pretty much not in that purview. But happy to have some discussions on how to operate for it, so that way we can work a little bit quicker, or people feel more comfortable participating in some of the DAO decisions.
Yeah, and I'm just finally getting access in here into the chat channel. But yeah, I think I would encourage definitely all the listeners to definitely think about this. It does seem like that there's a sense of urgency and speed efficiency that we have to kind of analyze this and come up with a path forward. So I do challenge all of our community members listening to this, either live now or in the recording, to maybe spend some time and investigate into this and contribute into the forum post, contribute into some of the Discord discussions on the topic. And Mav, if I can challenge you to maybe brief the team and just even see if for an interim measure the team might be willing to expand the guardian role here a little bit, just to assume this to maybe buy us time and still keep that timeline going forward. And then I think we could hopefully get the decisions and votes needed on this, because it does seem like it's an opportunity that we should at least explore, because if I understand this correct, even though this is with Ronin, there's another chain we're looking at that might have similar opportunities, and certainly the ecosystem is growing rapidly among the L2. So I think this could really be an area of exploration for us. Okay. Well, let me just first welcome or thank the two representatives, Brian and Spartan here from AlphaGrowth. Your input and kind of chasing this down and explaining to us has been most welcome here, and I really appreciate the time you've taken to not only pursue this and develop it, but also to take the time with us today to help explain it and make us kind of understand the decisions ahead for us.
Yeah, I just wanted, like you said, that there are other chains that are going to get involved with this, and Ronin is like just a really great test case study for us and for the DAO. That way, we're able to operate with other chains that come along. We have this deal like in place. Some of the other stuff that is in place is also rETH, which is the Liquidity V2 fork on Arbitrum. We're going to be helping them run enough DeFi games that would be interest to the LSC, such as Rockapool or ETH. Create that demand, create some of that liquidity sink there. Brian, I think you're trying to speak.
Oh, yeah. So there's a couple of chains. There's probably two. There's a new L1 that they don't want to buy any. They want to incentivize. There's an existing L2 that also has a couple $100 million of ETH on their balance sheet that wants to play this game too. So we're kind of creating the case study with Ronin. Whatever we do there with the bridge is there. Just another kind of thing, an integration that we got coming up likely next week or the week after. We will have the announcement, but a Liquidity V2 fork on Arbitrum called rETH will be accepting rETH. And I just wanted to kind of get a heads up out there that we've worked hard to get that integration. It took about we started like 4 or 5 months ago, and right when we started, and so they're accepting rETH as to the integration. So you'll never have to sell rETH again, and you'll be able to borrow a stablecoin against it. So should be pretty cool. And they'll also have like an embedded interest rate as well. So there's some yield games that we can structure products that we can make with that. So that'll come out in the next week or two.
Okay, excellent. And then just a couple housekeeping things for the community here as a whole. One of those things is you've probably seen the update here that the Smart Node has an update. And this one's being recommended for all users, so make certain you update your Smart Node. It looks like there's a tentative date for the Pectra update. And I apologize, I didn't read the message clearly enough to know if this is actually the update needed for Pectra. My guess is I don't know if it is. Maybe folks can comment in here if this is the one you need for Pectra, or if there's expected to be one more before the anticipated Pectra upgrade that's finally coming. And sorry, I see I've got like a window over here, so I can't quite read the chat to see if it is or isn't the correct update here. But and then I don't know if there's any other announcements for it. I know Mav has got a tentative lineup for another guest speaker for next week, but I don't think any date has been established yet.
I'd like to just kind of thank everybody here in the community for participating in this chat and showing up. I know everybody has a lot of different time zones, different areas they are, so it is kind of difficult for some to participate. And thank you for those that chimed in the chats or spoke up. I'd love to be able to do this more frequently with the DAO, to be able to speak up and voice their opinion. I want to be able to offer that for every single person that's here that might feel like their opinions aren't heard, and just provide another avenue for them to be able to voice anything they would like to speak on, regardless of whether it's on topic or something separate.
Yeah, and again, thank you both very much for the time you spent with us today. All right, with that, I think we're going to bring today's call to a close here. It's been wonderful to spend the time and kind of discuss something in great detail with everyone. And please continue the active conversation in trading and in the forum.